It's not.
It's like when does
technique milk on a cereal? Ooh, check out that cereal hack.
What? So you pour it on first and then eat it like that? Oh my god! Yeah.
I used to pour the milk and add the cereal after.
Yeah, we had a discussion about that on my channel, and I think those people are awful. Like I can't comprehend how that works, but there's a lot of people who do it.
What, cereal after milk?
Yeah, they put the milk in and then.
Well, I'm a heretic. I'm not going to throw stones. I don't put milk in my cereal at all. So
you put he puts half and half.
Would it put water?
No, I don't know nothing. I just eat it dry.
I used to put ice cream in cereal.
I told you I have no standing to criticize anything in this conversation.
Wait, Roger, you don't get away with that one. What did you just say? I heard that.
Put vanilla ice cream with cereal?
No, what?
No.
Now wait a minute.
Actually, it wasn't vanilla.
This is your daily ritual.
No, I don't eat cereal on a daily basis. On the odd occasion when I eat cereal,
have occasionally put ice cream with cereal. Okay.
Yes.
That's different. That's called a topping.
No, I mean like instead of milk, I would just
No.
That's just a dessert. That's not same class.
Like a Danish is a breakfast, not a dessert.
Excuse me, Danish, it can be whatever it wants to be. It is free will.
Scone.
I mean, I have a little Scandinavian in me, but I don't know if I have
muffin.
Oh, do you?
Blueberries.
Muffin can be, and you can eat a muffin anytime. Now, bagel only breakfast, or else you're dead.
Oh no, bagel for lunch. Bagel, not for dinner. You can do bagel for lunch.
Can you do? Is that a New York thing, or like
bagel for lunch? Like you do the savory bagel for lunch? Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I think that's all right.
Maybe a bagel sandwich.
New Yorkers, you tell us.
Yes.
Is bagel for lunch?
Cheese. I am still waiting to hear back.
What is
she
lox?
Responded to you like an hour ago.
It's lox is salmon.
2 hours ago.
Oh.
She might be running to find a location to upload.
Yeah, it could be.
Crazy. Oh, one other thing I wanted to let you know, Lamarr. So you see the numbers on row 18, 19, 20? Those little numbers in the gray, dark gray?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's the time code for me. So, for example, when the time hits 1:34, I'm going to throw yellow up on this bar telling you have basically a minute left and to wrap up whatever you're talking about. And then red means you move on to the next topic.
Oh, you expect me to actually follow this outline? Okay. Okay, that's interesting.
No, just in case you see it and you're freaked out.
Especially today, because I want to move through the non-Mobile World Congress stuff a little faster.
I understand. There's no problem.
Cool.
I'm assuming you're doing all the reading, right?
Yeah.
Okay, no problem.
That was easier, unless you want to.
No, because you in 4 years you've never asked me to read. Like you assume I can't read.
That's not true.
and
I assume that reading this stuff is a pain in the ass for people. That's why I don't ask.
And all this podcast.
Do you want to read?
No, because I'm offended.
That's why I didn't ask.
No, but I would like to in the future, but you've only had me do it once, and you were like I thought you're like, man, Lamarr is horrible, and then you never asked me.
Not what happened. It was more like, that's unfair. Why am I making people do this?
I honestly felt I like failed to audition. And
next time, if I don't ask you, remind me. I will be happy to have you read.
Thank you.
I see. This is one of those things where I look at it and I'm like, who wants to have to read this stuff? It's more fun to talk about it.
Yeah, I like reading.
RIF. Reading is fun.
Or just because it's fundamental. Yeah, I was a classroom teacher. Yeah, so it's like we had to say that all the time. Reading is fundamental.
You didn't happen to watch AP Bio, did you? They premiered it yesterday.
No.
It's not as good as I wanted it to be. It's one of the guys from Always Sunny in Philadelphia plays a philosophy doctorate holder who is teaching AP Bio in a high school and hates it.
Okay. No,
and Patton Oswalt is the principal.
It's NBC. Okay, that's why.
Oh, because you
No, just really watch NBC shows.
feel like I
these days.
refuse to watch NBC.
No, it's not that. I
Ever
rarely watch
since,
them.
because you're afraid of peacocks?
No, ever since they were going to cancel Timeless, I just said I'm never going back.
Oh, wow. Well, it's back. It's coming back.
Yeah, I know. But they always threaten to cancel shows that I get into.
All right. We will give 5 minutes before we just go ahead and start without Myriam.
Okay.
See, no updated emails. Oh.
You're probably right, Roger. She's probably running to find.
Oh,
something.
she's here.
Oh, look at that. We said her name 3 times and she appeared.
Hello.
Hey, folks.
Hey, Myriam, how's it going?
I just want to make sure. Good. I just want.
Yeah, that bandwidth just crapped out.
Can you guys hear me?
Okay, we can hear you now. Your bandwidth went out. I would suggest lowering the bandwidth down in the Hangout settings.
How do I do that?
So you go to the top, and a little pop-up toolbar will show up, and then there's one that looks like the bars for a cell phone. It says adjust bandwidth usage. Click on that, and then adjust it down to low or very low.
Or close the window.
Which you just now made her do. Yeah. No.
At least we know she's here.
Yep. Looked like she was in a stable location.
I've never been to I want to go one year to Mobile World Congress.
I've never been to Mobile World Congress either. I've been to Barcelona, but just for kicks.
It booted me out when I did that. Just so you know.
Well, that's
actually, if you don't mind not having, that's good right there.
How's that? Can you guys hear me okay? I'm on a really fast LT connection, like 50 megabits symmetric right now.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know why it would be bad.
It was probably just the beginning connection because it seems like it's stabilizing now.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's good, right? In terms of picking the right mic, how do I know I've got the right mic? I think I do.
I'm frozen.
I got it. Okay.
You sound good.
Am I frozen?
Yes.
Yeah, Lamarr, your video
Lamarr.
frozen.
Yeah, I don't know what just happened. Okay, hold on.
All right. But yeah, Myriam, you sound good.
Okay, good. Yeah, I have a condenser mic here right next to my laptop.
Do you want to tap that mic?
The
Just
space-
tap the condenser mic, the top of it. Okay, I don't.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a little echoey in here, but there's nothing I can do about it.
Now you can tell you're in a room, but it's
good. We can, as long as you're intelligible, like we can understand what you're saying.
And my video is not going to be HD simply because this is a MacBook, so it's 640 by is VGA basically.
Yeah, don't worry about that. That's
Okay, cool.
fine. Now we just need Lamarr to come back in.
It all
There
come
he is.
together. All come together.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Are you not getting video from me?
No, I still don't see video from you.
Okay, I didn't touch anything. That's the third problem.
That is weird. Yeah.
All right. Someone at Google's just
They're just messing with us right now.
messing with us.
Like my camera's on, and I didn't touch anything.
And it shows in the settings that your camera's there?
Yeah, the light's on the camera. Let me go to settings. Hold on 1 second.
The Hangout settings, not the operating.
Yeah. I'm about to do that now. It was on the other camera. Now let's see. Why would this happen right when your show's about to start? I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't touch anything.
Well, it was all working just fine, so we didn't.
Yeah, something glitched out because it didn't just go black. It went like green pixely like weirdness.
Oh my god.
So, we can do the show audio only. That's fine.
If you're okay with that, Lamarr. Can you see us? Can you see the screen?
You all.
Oh wait,
hold on.
There you go.
Hold
You're
on.
back.
Okay.
Oh, look at that.
Hey,
we scared the camera.
like
We said,
yeah,
hey, camera.
I'm not touching anything. My hands are right here the whole time.
All right. All right.
Like-
Well, let's get going before we lose this mojo. Here we go. In 3, 2. Daily Tech News Show is powered by you. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support. This is the Daily Tech News for Monday, February 26, 2018 from DTNS headquarters in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
And from an undisclosed location in LA County, I'm Lamarr Wilson.
Thank you, Lamarr. Sarah has the day off. We miss her. She'll be back tomorrow. But joining us from Barcelona is Myriam Joire, host of the Mobile Tech Podcast. A lovely choice of a name, Myriam. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure, Tom.
I like having shows that are named exactly after what they are. Obviously,
simple, right? I mean,
yeah,
duh.
Exactly. You know what you're getting. All right, we are going to talk quite a bit about Mobile World Congress in just a bit, but let's start with a few tech things you should know. Bloomberg reports their sources say Apple will release 3 new iPhones this year, just like last year. Phones will be about the same size, though thinner bezels, meaning larger screens. Some of the iPhone X's unique features will also make their way into other models. None of this should sound surprising, really, but it's Mark Gurman. He's good with these links. Qualcomm's chairman Paul Jacobs sent a letter to Broadcom CEO Hock Tan saying Qualcomm is now willing to be acquired by Broadcom if the two companies can agree on a price. Broadcom recently lowered their offer to $79 a share. Qualcomm says that undervalues the company. In a statement, Broadcom says it doesn't believe Qualcomm is sincere, calling the letter engagement theater. The latest version of Apple's iOS security guide replaces a reference to relying on Microsoft Azure for remote data storage with a reference to Google Cloud, which raised a lot of eyebrows. The reference to Amazon Web Services is still there in both the old and the new versions. All right, let's talk a little bit more about the Supreme Court.
Yes.
This week, the Supreme Court will hear arguments in a case between Microsoft and the U.S. Department of Justice over emails wanted in relation to a drug trafficking case that are stored on a server in Ireland. Now, the U.S. believes that a warrant is all they need to get Microsoft to hand over the data because Microsoft's a U.S. company. Microsoft argues that since the data is stored in Ireland, only an Irish government entity can order the handover. The court is expected to issue a ruling on the case by the end of June. So we're not going to hear about this anytime soon, are we?
No, I don't think so. And I think Microsoft might have an edge here. You think about all these companies like Apple or Microsoft who has loads of cash, billions of dollars overseas. And why do they have it? Because the U.S. can't tax it until they bring it over. So I think there's a good argument here that, the U.S. can reach into another foreign government's, servers just for their use. So
yeah, and Myriam, I mean, you're in Europe right now, and I know a lot of Europeans would be less likely to want to use services from a company in the U.S. if they felt like that data could be grabbed by the U.S. at any time.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously don't know the details exactly of what their policies are, but I think that it's been very clear over the years that they've shown that they're very privacy, savvy, or maybe paranoid at times. But I think, it matters to them, and obviously they would let that happen.
Apple is making security updates to its iTunes service that mean it won't work with older devices. Among the now obsolete devices are the 11-year-old original Apple TV. You'll still be able to use it. You just won't be able to connect it to iTunes anymore, as well as devices running Windows XP and Windows Vista. The update will cut off the devices starting May 25th. So you have until May 25th to make your plans. Do any of these cutoffs rub you guys the wrong way, or does it feel like these are old devices? You can't expect the service to work with them forever.
Well, I think the only one I would probably argue with would be the Apple TV, because you bought that with the explicit intention of using iTunes on it. So there still should be some bare bones iTunes on their views. But for Windows XP Vista, I still no shame. You shouldn't have those. Just like this Moto article. Why are you still using XP and Vista? Stop it. Just stop it right now.
I mean, I don't know, Myriam. I kind of feel that way about the Apple TV too, though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a problem. 11 years, are you kidding me? Why are you still doing with an Apple TV that's 11 years old? I mean, they're so cheap. Just get a new one. I just bought a used 3rd gen from someone for $69. Like, it does 1080p. It's perfectly fine. Like, come on. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, who cares?
I just realized my Apple TV is right over there, the original. in a box, not being used. I mean, you could still AirPlay to it, I guess.
I mean, it's fun. You can use it to like do some fun projects. It's an Intel-based PC essentially, so repurpose it for something fun. You know.
YouTube announced the launch of live automatic captions on video, as well as the ability to replay chat from a live stream when you go watch it later. You get the same chat that happened when it was live. YouTube says it's using live automatic speech recognition to serve captions on live streams that aren't already professionally captioned. Feature will roll out on YouTube Live in the following weeks. Of course, we stream live on YouTube. We have a different chat room on IRC, so we won't take advantage of that, but we could definitely use the live captions. Lamarr, is this something that is going to help you?
The live captions are huge because I always assumed they were doing this already because like the article said, a few years ago, they rolled out captions and then I don't see them anymore. I know a lot of professional companies YouTubers are hiring them to put captions out in different languages, etc. So I just assumed Google was automatically translating all my videos and they're not. And so I get people, matter of fact, yesterday's video, someone said from Spain was like, man, I wish this was in Spanish, or I get somebody from France. I wish this video wasn't in French. They don't speak English or they don't understand me. So I'm very happy this is coming out. I was really frustrated because I don't know how to caption. I don't know who would take the time to caption some of my craziness in a video. And so that one is good. The live stream part, I think if you want to feel like you're watching a live show, I think that's cool. It's anything that just kind of tricks the eye. You can't really talk with the chat while they're talking. So I'm not really sure about that one.
Well, you mentioned two different things. One is translation as well as captioning, which is a cool side effect of having the captions. You might be able to do some automatic translation on them, and you can go and enable those captions after the fact, but it takes a while for them to be generated. There's arguments about whether they're really any good or not. Still, I'm very curious to see how good they are live to be able to do this. Myriam, what do you think?
I think anything that improves accessibility for people is a good thing. I think a live stream is really needed. That's the hardest part to do, right? So I think this is a good thing. And as Lamarr suggested, if it evolves into real-time translation, which for Google would be trivial, I think, why not? Why not? This is great.
No, very cool. All right. We're going to talk about Mobile World Congress. We'll go through some of the biggest announcements, but let's start, Myriam, with your overall impressions wandering around the floor, getting your hands on a few of these devices. What's catching your eye?
I mean, I think the trend is clear that the mid-range is where the battles are being fought now. And more importantly, there's some things we kind of saw coming already, so this might not surprise some of your listeners, but the 18:9 bezel-less, or whatever you want to call it, ultra-wide screen display trend is definitely here to stay. We're seeing more and more phones, even at the low end now, that are almost full screen and replace the fingerprint reader in the back, et cetera, et cetera. Lots of those around. And at the high end, more and more facial recognition. Obviously, nobody's matched Face ID yet in terms of technology, but I think it's only a matter of time. So it's been a normal MWC show. I've been doing it for about a decade, so I'm a little jaded now. But I think that it's a good show, but it's not like wow. I'm not wowed by anything in particular. Yeah.
Can I ask you, Myriam? Is it okay, Tom? Can I ask her a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm curious. You've done this for 10 years. Don't you see it as I kind of feel sorry for all these manufacturers in a way because at some point, what do you do with the rectangle? Like how much more can you innovate? But you have this audience who is furious. I was watching I think yesterday or the other day about the S9, and people were like, "Oh, it looks exactly the same." It's like, well, what are they supposed to do with the actual phone? I think that's the biggest challenge for them. I feel bad for them because I don't know where you take it the next level.
Well, there's a few things that are coming. Android P, which is going to be coming out in the summer or after Google I/O sometime, will be supporting notches in the display and also circular display. So we might start seeing some smartphones that are different form factors, like not necessarily even rectangles with rounded corners, which is what we have on some phones like last year's G6. But I think more importantly, there's some fun stuff going on. One of the most fun, a phone of the show wasn't a smartphone. It was the Nokia 8110 4G, which is a reissue of the Matrix / Banana phone from the late 90s. And it's, you know, it's a feature phone. There's nothing to it. It's got 4G LTE and can be used as hotspot. But the form factor is fun. And I think some people are going to dig that, especially if you want to disconnect for the weekend, just be able to take a few photos with a decent camera and stay connected by voice calls. Yeah. That's your phone, right? It's 79 euros. It's a bargain. So I think there is, you know, the smartphone slab is there, but it's evolving. I mean, you see a Samsung Galaxy now, and you know it's a Samsung Galaxy. So these manufacturers are developing personalities around this, you know, glass slab. So I think, you know, it's evolving and changing. And I think the notch is definitely defining where Apple's going with the iPhone, right?
Yeah. Okay, how's the headphone jack doing?
Poorly, very poorly. Sony's new flagship doesn't have it. I saw some mid-range phones from Croatian manufacturer Nokia, NOA, that lost the headphone jacks at the mid-range. This is the first time I've seen it. But hey, Samsung kept it on the Galaxy S9, and they used it as a you know, kind of a bullet point in their marketing. So I mean, look, all hope is not lost, but the reality is, if you want to leverage some of those legacy devices that are out there, if you want to be prepared, you're going to have in your bag somewhere some sort of dongle, whether it's an iPhone compatible dongle or one of the two standards for Android, because even though USB-C is one connector, there's two ways to do audio on there, analog and digital. And you know, the best is probably to carry a digital one because it'll work on any Android phone with USB Type-C.
All right, let's talk a little bit about some of the bigger announcements. Sony announced the Xperia XZ2 and XZ2 Compact. Uses the Snapdragon 845 chipset, as a lot of these big announcements are. Sony claims that its implementation of Qualcomm's X20 modem can reach peak download speeds of 1.2 gigabits per second because it uses a few more antennas. The XZ2 has that 18:9 aspect ratio you were mentioning in its 5.7-inch Full HD Plus HDR screen. Only carries a 3,180 milliamp hour battery. It's not bad, but it's not huge. It has a 19 megapixel camera and can now capture 4K HDR video. Again, Sony makes great sensors, but this is not a huge increase in megapixels. It's an increase in capability. There's also a feature that vibrates along with certain things, including your music or your movies. XZ2 goes on sale next month, starting at £699. And then the Compact is a 5-inch version, goes on sale next month for £549. Sony also announced their Xperia Ear Duo headphones. And the idea with these is that you'll be able to have them automatically adjust to your surroundings so that you can hear your surroundings and also hear whatever audio you're listening to. That way you could carry on a conversation, still hear your music, maybe good for fitness, although Sony doesn't seem to be emphasizing that quite as much. Pre-orders are up now for those, $279, shipping in the US in late May. Myriam, what'd you think of the Sony announcements?
Yeah, so the XZ2 is finally a phone from Sony with a lot less bezel. This has been a long time in coming. Their phones have been bezel-tastic for a really long time. And even this as an 18:9, you know, ultra widescreen display still has quite a bit of bezel. It's probably the most bezel-y of the new trend. That being said, though, the curves are a little softer and rounder, and they're definitely evolving their design language. The camera is yet another evolution of what they've been putting on their flagships for about 5 years now, which is a variation of their 19, 20, 21 megapixel sensor. Strangely, still no optical image stabilization, despite Sony being one of the big manufacturers of optically image stabilized sensors for other companies. So it's very odd. Lots of computational photography tricks with that camera. It should be great. But the big news, as you said, is 1.2 gigabit per second LTE and Snapdragon 845. The only other phone with 845 right now is the Galaxy S9 that we know of. Of course, more are coming. But this is a big deal. I was actually surprised that we didn't see more announcements of 845s at MWC so far.
All right, let's move on to Samsung announcing the 5.8-inch Galaxy S9 and the 6.2-inch Galaxy S9 Plus dual aperture, dual cameras. A lot of talk about the cameras. The phones feature Snapdragon 845, as Myriam said, stereo speakers, augmented reality emojis. Apparently not quite as good as the animojis in the iPhone, but no. Pre-orders start March 2nd for $720 up to $915, depending on the model and which carrier you get it at. Shipping March 16th. And the new DeX Pad will let you use the S9 as a full computer with the phone serving as the trackpad. And the DexPad now supports resolutions up to 2560 by 1440. What do you think of these?
I had a. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Lamarr.
No, I had a question for Myriam. Maybe she could put it in her summary. When is Samsung going to just finally like drop Android? Because you look at I watched the presentation, and I don't think they even mentioned Android one time. Like they haven't done that for the last couple of years. They really make it about features. Samsung this, Samsung connect your refrigerator, the Samsung smart things. When are they finally just going to say goodbye Android? I feel like it has to happen in the next year or two.
Well, you bring up a good point. I think in some markets that's perfectly possible. They have Tizen as a good OS that runs on their watches very well, I might add.
And the refrigerators too, yeah.
And the refrigerators, let's not forget. But the reality is, if you want to sell in the West, you need Google Play Services. Google Play Services requires Android, and that's the bottom line. We're way too invested in our Google ecosystem as users, whether we're tech savvy early adopter tech journalists like us, or if we are even the average person in the US. If you look at the average iPhone in the US, most of them have some sort of heavy Google application install base. I mean, that's just the reality. So on one hand, you're right, but on the other hand, I think they're focusing on the features like Apple does, not on the specs. And the other thing to keep in mind about this Galaxy S9 is there's a bit of a TikTok cycle with Samsung, right? The S7 was an update of the S6. The S9 is an update of the S8. And they fixed a lot of things. The fingerprint reader is in a good spot. The camera is certainly impressive. Google showed us that computational photography is the future, and there's no doubt about that. But there's still so much that can be done in hardware, and Samsung's doing it without compromising things like reliability, with thickness, which is very critical to consumers, water resistance, and all that. So dual aperture is certainly going to improve things, but I think computational photography is going to buy us a lot more, and I think Google is on the right track there. This is just Samsung asserting once again, like Apple does, that they're a hardware company, right? We're making this best-in-class camera hardware, and I'm sure it's going to pay off. But overall, I think, the other thing I want to point out is you can't forget that the Galaxy S9 is also available as an Exynos processor-based phone in other markets. So it's not just Snapdragon 845, and they did not mention Qualcomm a single time in their keynote because of that. So yeah.
Yeah. And Samsung makes the Exynos, just in case you didn't realize that. We mentioned the Nokia 8110, the banana phone, but HMD also announced several other Android handsets under the Nokia brand: the Nokia 1, the Nokia 6, the 7 Plus, and the 8 Sirocco. The 8 Sirocco has a stainless steel frame, sells for €749 starting in April, has dual-site Zeiss optics, and an edge-to-edge OLED 2K 5.5-inch display. Nokia 7 Plus has 12-megapixel Zeiss optics, sells for €399 starting in April. Nokia 6 goes on sale in May for €279, and the Nokia 1 is an Android Go phone. That's that Android Go operating system that's optimized for low-spec phones. That one's only going to sell for $85 starting in April. And I think this kind of rounds out the trend when we talk about these Zeiss lenses, Myriam. It feels like the phones are all differentiating themselves mostly on image, on cameras.
It's a huge part of what consumers want, and I've been using my phone as a camera device since about 2004. The first phone I bought that could do autofocus was like, okay, I'm going to get a phone with a camera now, because now I know I can take some decent photos. But the reality is, that's what people use for photography. And so if you can nail that experience for them, they're going to be coming back. And Apple proved that. Samsung followed suit. Google's following suit, et cetera, et cetera. Nokia has always been in the game for that, even though they're a completely new company now. And their thing is Zeiss, and, Huawei has Leica, et cetera. To me, what's exciting about HMD Global / Nokia, the new Nokia, is that in their first year, I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they've been so successful, at least outside the US, that they're certainly a growing force again.
They were throwing around 70 million phones as their
70 million phones is a lot of phones. I think they achieved 3% market share in the smartphone realm last year through India, Russia, and parts of Europe, which is incredible on a first year, right? So now the second generation that they're coming out with here in Barcelona, this is for the second year. These products are really, really polished. They're really nice. The Nokia 6 is a new version of the previous model with some upgrades. The 7 Plus is edge to edge 18:9 display. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's a machine out of a solid block of aluminum, and it's got this anodized, this gold anodization all around the edges and accents and buttons. It looks super slick. It looks like nothing you've seen before. The Scirocco, the Nokia 8, is basically their interpretation of what Apple did with the iPhone. Stainless steel, glass sandwich. It's beautifully done. And the Nokia 1, as you said, is kind of an impressive phone for the money. They didn't sacrifice on the display, on the camera, on anything on this phone to reach that $85 price point. And I think we're going to be really impressed. The same way as the Moto E4 this past year for $80 on Verizon is, I would say, my pick for the US market for the best low-end Android smartphone. I have a feeling that if we can get this Nokia 1 in our hands in the US, it might potentially beat the Moto at its own game. It's going to be a good one.
All right, we'll finish up with a concept phone. Vivo is showing off the Apex Full View. It has a 1.8 millimeter bezel on the top. That's very small if you don't know metric system very well. 4.3 millimeters on the bottom, flexible OLED display, and an exciter beneath the display will turn the entire screen into the earpiece. So they didn't have to have a speaker in the earpiece, although they still have one on the bottom for playing out loud. For selfies, a 9 megapixel camera pod rises up out of the top. Also has the underscreen fingerprint sensor that works over a quarter of the phone's screen. That's an ultrasound sensor, not the Synaptics sensor that was shown off by Vivo at CES. But again, Lamarr, this is all concept. When are we going to see it?
I want it now. Listen, this is the most exciting phone that I watched the video of it, and I'm just amazed at some of this technology. Just when I saw that camera pop up, it's just like genius. You get to save on those bezels, and the fact that the screen was able to work with the fingerprint, sensor. My Sony A1E TV has a kind of a speaker in the screen, the new OLEDs, and so to see that it has that kind of technology in there, very similar at least, where you can listen to a call. Now this is what I'm talking about with innovation. Again, I don't think you can do too much with that rectangle. Although, as Myriam says, it's coming, but to put in some features like this, it's like I would buy this phone as it is. It needs to stop being a concept immediately.
Myriam, did you get a chance to? What do you think of this?
Sadly, I didn't see this yet. I was just as surprised as everyone else when I saw the Android Central story. I'm not sure anybody else has caught it, but. I mean, look, this is the future. This is what's inevitably coming, where the entire front of our phone is just going to be a screen. And they solved the camera issue by having it pop up. But I think the future is actually the camera under the screen, where the pixel, the area where the camera is, would turn black and let the light through, and the photo can be taken. Fingerprint reader under the screen is definitely cool. Ultrasonic is actually a very good way to do it. That's the Qualcomm technology, I believe. But here's what's, I think, more interesting is I'm not even sure fingerprint readers matter going forward. I think continuous authentication using some sort of 3D facial recognition is going to be the way to go. Mm-hmm. And Apple's shown that, Apple's only going to keep improving it. What I'm really surprised is that hasn't at MWC yet. And of course, we know that Huawei is launching the P20 on March 27th in Paris. And this may be the phone that is the first Android phone to actually really truly compete with the iPhone 10 for this kind of feature. Because, I mean, we will forget fingerprint readers in 2 years. We'll never even remember we had them. This is not the way to go. And so, I think this is really cool that Vivo actually went out and showed this thing. But, they've well known for just doing prototypes and not necessarily delivering on them. So, take it with a grain of salt. I mean, it's inevitable, but I think, and it's exciting, but I think that, I'm not sure how practical this pop-out selfie camera. In a real product, you might even have a tiny little corner cutout with a tiny little selfie camera in there and sacrifice a few pixels, or as I said, a transparent system. But we'll see.
0.8 seconds, which is like just on the edge of being acceptable.
Yeah.
Possibly annoying for that pop-up to come out. Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, subscribe to Daily Tech Headlines at dailytechheadlines.com. Sarah may not be here, but the mailbag still is. And we got one from Michael from Plum Trees Are Starting to Bloom, Yokohama. Said, hey, you asked last Friday about experiences with CEOs who have done their workers good. Well, when the bubble economy popped in the mid-1990s here in Japan, the software company I worked for cut the bonuses of the top executives and management so that the lower paid employees, especially first years, could still get their bonuses. While downsizing was a new concept to Japanese companies, we took the view of right-sizing and adjusted departments accordingly, shuffling people between sister companies rather than laying anyone off. Our CEO, one of the founders of the company, took a cut in pay and announced his retirement. Doing so once everything was brought to an even keel again. I had assumed that this was the norm for Japanese companies. I was one of 8 foreign employees scattered throughout Japan in a company of 400. What a cool story.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
Would they ever fly here in the U.S.?
Yes. Can I please go work there? Yeah.
I doubt it.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael. And thanks to everybody who participates by sending us emails or participating in our subreddit at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Big shout out. We don't shout out enough to the moderators there, Scotty Rowland and everybody like Kyle who keep that running smooth, and our Facebook group and all the moderators there as well. Facebook.com/groups/Daily Tech News Show. Myriam, cannot thank you enough for joining us. What a pleasure to have you.
You're very welcome. It's always a pleasure to be on your show, Tom. You know that. And I need to have you on my show. I know you're a busy man, but sometime I will have to make it happen.
Absolutely. Fair play. I would love to come back. Folks, it's mobiletechpodcast.com. Anything else people should know about it?
No, I mean, it's a weekly show. It publishes towards the end of the week, and I do it no matter what, rain, shine, snow, travel, whatever. It's audio only. And it's helped along by my YouTube channel, which basically shows close up some of the devices that we discuss on the show. I mean, I get my hands on pretty much everything since my Engadget days, so it's good, that way.
Yeah, I mean, my best look at the Nokia 8810 and the Samsung Galaxy S were your videos that you put up. So
they're not the most polished, but they do the job.
No, you got good looks at the phones. That's what matters. There's also another great YouTube channel called Lamarr Wilson that you should check out.
Oh, well, thank you. Can I first say this is my first time meeting you, Myriam. I am watching and listening to all your stuff. You are amazing.
Oh, thank you so much.
No, seriously, the knowledge that you have, you can tell that you're really passionate about this, and so that kind of seeped through today. So I just want to say I'm a new fan.
Thank you so much.
All right, no problem.
Forget people I know don't all know each other. This is great.
Yeah. My channel is mostly I call it fun boxing because I do a lot of fun unboxings. What's coming up as far as that your audience might be excited about? It's already been released, I can say it, but I'm getting a brand new PC from Origin that they're I'm not getting paid, but they're sponsoring. They built it for me. It's reached the value. It's at $10,000.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a beast. It has a couple 1080 Ti graphics cards, 18 core. So, you all want to see that. So
when's the Lamarr coin going to be started mining?
You know what? Immediately, the moment that gets here, my light bill is going to be terrible.
Yeah,
but that's coming for an unboxing and showcase in a week or two. So subscribe if you want to, get a taste of that or any other little fun tech gadgets I talk about or unbox. Excellent.
Thank you, folks, for getting us towards that goal of one more patron each month. The last month, last I checked, we were one shy, so just need a couple more of you in the pool before Wednesday, and we'll be able to hit that goal at patreon.com/DTNS. And a huge thanks to everybody who continues to support us. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 21:30 UTC. You can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. Back tomorrow with Sarah Lane and Patrick Beja. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Do you stream this on Twitch?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know. When did you start doing that? That's actually really cool.
About a month ago, I started doing the little simulcast.
That's actually really good idea. Yeah.
Indeed.
That was a tight show, y'all. Like,
That was
we packed
great.
it in.
It was awesome. Yeah. I was impressed how much you managed to put in a half hour. Wow.
Yeah.
It was good.
It only was a half hour. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I mean, wow. I just looked at the time just now. That's amazing.
Yeah.
No,
that's because you're a pro, Tom. That's why.
Well, and you guys too, though. Like you both, like Lamarr, you had some really good insights and questions. Myriam, you obviously always know your stuff and are able to deliver it in an eloquent fashion.
No empty filler.
It all came together.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna try to pretend like I know everything with the master here of phones. So I have more questions than anything. Yeah, because I can only study so much on these phones, but there's just so many of them. So I don't know how you keep up. This must be all you do, right? Just
I mean, I love your unboxings, Lamarr. They're great. I think that
you've seen me?
Of course, yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, I can't tell you that I'm watching every video, but I do watch them.
Thank you.
The challenge for me is I basically get a phone a week to play with on average, right? I mean,
wow.
And it's tough, right? So I try to focus on the important ones a bit more and stuff like that. But yeah.
Now, I think what my audience, the feedback I've gotten is a lot of YouTubers, and I agree with this. Like some of the high end YouTube channels, they don't focus on those lower end to middle markets. It's always the top of the line phones, and I think that you talked about the middle, which I really appreciate today. But and there's that low end that's still whatever company can come in and really tighten that up. And we talked about Motorola and Nokia. That's where the money really is, and I wish more companies would realize that, because that's like the bottom of the pyramid. That's what the base is.
There were two more Android Go announcements at MWC so far. I'm trying to remember who were there. There was Alcatel and somebody else. So I mean, it's definitely happening. There's going to be more sub 100 Android phones that I don't think are going to suck for once, which is really amazing.
Right.
And then the mid range, the $200 price point is a battle going on right now. It's a huge battle, and Huawei, at least worldwide, especially their Honor brand, is kind of winning it because they're able to undercut everyone because of volume. And I wouldn't be surprised even if they sell at a loss in some cases. Their P9, the Honor 9 Lite, which is not available in the US, is European phone that for 179 euros just blows my mind. I cannot believe that phone exists with the specs and the features and the quality and the materials that it does. It is getting very exciting area of the market for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting, Huawei getting up on stage at Mobile World Congress and basically saying, only 3 or 4 of you are going to survive, and we'll be one of them. Everybody out of the pool as far as device makers go.
Yeah, they're crazy. They're very aggressive, and I mean, not crazy in a bad way. It's just amazing how we have no concept of this in the US. I have, because I've been following them for a long time, but I think it's there's, with all the politics that are going on right now in the US around Huawei, it's like it's going to get worse because people are they don't eventually it's going to inevitably come to the US, and when it does, when the political climate changes, and it does, it's just going to be like a hammer coming into the market.
We talked about this a bit on text message. Nate Langston had me on his UK podcast this weekend, and yeah, it smacks of protectionism that the U.S.
Oh my God, yeah,
Huawei out, because how do you compete? At least on the low end and the mid range for right now.
I mean, they have one ace up their sleeve, that they have the Honor brand, and it's really, I mean, sure, you can say it's Huawei, it's Honor, but it's like, to Americans, that brand does not sound like a Chinese brand,
right?
So they could really cultivate that brand somehow. Especially if they continue using Qualcomm chipsets for those phones. How do you fight that? Is there no Chinese chips in the phone?
Yeah.
Hello? So I don't know.
And most Americans have only heard the name Huawei in regards to the, I heard they got banned by the government or something.
Right.
Some vague awareness. An Honor chip with a Qualcomm made I'm sorry, an Honor phone with a Qualcomm chip inside, that's not gonna ring that same bell. You're right.
And the other thing is, I wouldn't be surprised if they go full on Android One in the future, Honor.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do, then they don't even have to worry about the software part, right? Because it's pure Android.
Yeah.
And that would be beneficial for them. I don't know if they're going to do that. It's just kind of like a bit of a kind of like strategic projection on my part. But if I were them, that's what I would do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm curious to know. I mean, it can't just be a scale of units sold. They must. I mean, they own their own factories and the rest. So, I mean, there's something to be said that of a vertical integration where you own a majority of the process up from from manufacturing to actually selling the product.
Yeah, I mean, right now the way they do it is by having their own chipsets, right? That's the big deal because they make them sell. It's like Exynos with Samsung, right? And so and then they do have tons of great deals with all their suppliers, right? Like it's kind of like Samsung, if you want, they can order by the millions, right, in one shot. So they get the best deals, they get first grabs. First dibs on stuff, and that's kind of how they're able to undercut everyone else. But I am convinced that with some phones like the Honor 9 Lite, that they're actually like undercutting, like they're just
dumping,
loss leader. They don't care, and they're just going to flood. They're flooding Europe with it right now. I just bought one for my mom.
But I mean, like the thing though is, traditionally, if you sold the electronics part under cost of manufacture, it wasn't seen as a major trade thing, right? Typically commodities, if you trade, for example, try dumping steel that you basically made at a loss, but you have so much of it, you just literally drop it on the market. Countries typically would put up tariffs as a protectionary measure. I definitely see at some point where, and not just the US, but any other country that has a mobile phone industry that they wish to protect, and they see a tidal wave of super cheap phones coming, you don't think they would try to
well, I think it's a short-term strategy. So what I think they're doing with the Honor brand in Europe, at least, I'm pretty much certain that they make a loss on these phones, is they're trying to get, and they sell them to carriers there, right? Like I was in France before Barcelona because my mom lives in the south of France. I grew up there. I was born there. So she needed a new phone, and that was the best phone I could get for the money from her carrier. And so we got it, and it's a great phone, but they want these phones to be in the carrier channel so that people use them and like them and buy them again, and then they can actually charge a reasonable price in the future. So I think it's not a long-term thing, it's a short-term thing to kind of get there in the door. I mean, in Europe they're pretty popular, but not yet quite with the carriers. So they're trying to really get the carriers involved, and the carriers are loving it because people are loving the phones. So I think it's actually a working strategy. That's kind of I think what they're doing, because I think they're very well aware that if they continue that, they're going to get tariffs, right?
Side note, titles. Did you pick one already, Tom?
We were having too good of a conversation, and I loved what do you do with a rectangle?
That's true.
I feel like that's the theme of Mobile World Congress right there. So
yep,
thank you
much. Yep.
Well, it's interesting because Huawei and Samsung in many cases aren't held on by other electronics businesses that would cut into their phone business. For example, you mentioned why you didn't think that Sony didn't include optical image stabilization in their phones. And I'm wondering if it's the typical Sony thing where one silo said, listen, we do the cameras around here. We don't want anything that could potentially overlap into our business. We need to have clear lanes like on the highway. So you get a sensor, but you get no fancy image stabilization other than the user's arms or a Joby pod or whatever.
So I think it's what it is. Yeah.
So Sony is known to do that when they own products. I was thinking that think about the PS4 Pro. They didn't even put the 4K Blu-ray, and they own don't they own Blu? They're
part of the consortium.
Of course, yeah, but they're a major part of it. It's just little things that they do, like they let Xbox get an edge on them for a player that they have complete dominance over, and it's like it's one department not talking to the other.
I mean,
Yeah.
Sony's historically full of that, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, the failure of them to compete with the iPod in the early days when they had everything, they had all the technology.
They had
to do it.
everything. You're right. Yeah.
And they didn't because they didn't want to do MP3, right? They just wanted to stick with their proprietary codecs and memory card formats and all that. It's always the same story with Sony. They're a little weird that way. So, I mean, I'm not surprised, but at the same time, it is kind of interesting that we're like on the 5th generation now of these Z series phones or X series or whatever they are. And it's like we have, the same sensor that's evolving, but nobody uses it. And very few other phones use that sensor, yet Sony makes all these other sensors with OIS and all that, and they don't use them themselves. It's very strange.
Well, I don't know about y'all, but I still love playing my A tracks off of my memory stick.
No, you do not.
Baby.
See, that was the thing. That was the most annoying thing. Why do I have to re-encode these, transcode these into another? Like, why can't I just leave it the way I got it?
Oh, that's why they lost. Yeah.
Yeah, basically. But I mean, you have to admit, for a while before iPod, I used mini disc and I loved it. I thought it was a very cool format, and it was close. It was very much like Apple, very close ecosystem, but very well executed. It was solid. I mean, for a while until MP3 and hard drive and flash based players were a thing. That was way better than CD, way better than cassette. So,
All right.
All right, folks.
Yeah, thanks again, Myriam. Really appreciate it, especially with the time difference and everything. This was great.
Yeah, nice
I got a bunch more videos to edit. I got actually my Sony XZ2 Compact and XZ2 hands-ons to publish. So I'm going to do that now and go to bed. And then I'll catch you guys next time, all right?
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thanks for having me again. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Cool. And then I will stop the stream right here. So everyone say goodbye. See you.
Goodbye.
Except for
Goodbye. Okay,
you.
I'm not. Okay, yeah.
Oh, no. You could say goodbye, but not tomorrow. Like you
Just end the stream, Roger.